I'm at the point now where I'm not going to rule out Cags getting to the big leagues this year. I'm not guaranteeing it. I am not saying it's going to happen. But with a dude that is as talented as he is and is showcasing that talent in big league camp still, and getting starts and getting at bats in every other game or nearly every game, it makes me think they believe that it could be a possibility. One Royal way back at it here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Be sure to rate, review, subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you're listening on the audio side. On the video side, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you know when our episodes go up. We're going to continue to ramp this thing up. Probably one episode next week, and then going forward, it'll be 3 episodes a week. So I'm super excited to get that rolling. A lot to talk about today. A lot of news and notes from Surprise from an injury perspective. One that had a lot of Royals fans worried. 2 guys you're going to see in the spring breakout game later this week, but that have had an impact in a lot of the spring training games of late. Obviously, names that we've talked about in the past, but I'm going to keep hammering that point. We'll do another roster projection. Not a lot has changed, but I think there's reasons for that, and I still think it's noteworthy to talk about. So I'm going to try and jam as much of this as I can, into about 30 minutes or so. So I appreciate y'all hanging with me. Before we move forward, this show, as always, brought to you by Emprise Bank, our partners in Possible here at KCSN and on this podcast, One Royal Way. Can't thank them enough for their support of this show. Some news and notes from Surprise, a lot more. It's mostly on the injury front. It's kind of what I'm going to focus on here. And it's positive news pretty much across the board, which is really good to see as we're, as of recording, 2 weeks away from opening day at Kauffman Stadium. Bobby Witt Jr. took a pitch off the hand or off his forearm on Wednesday afternoon against Seattle. Andres Munoz. It was a 96-mile-an-hour fastball that kind of ran in it and got him. And it worried a lot of fans because he left the game immediately. They said it was a forearm. Fans kind of held their breath, crossed their fingers, but x-rays came back negative, which was a good sign. They said it was a left forearm contusion. He out of baseball activity today entirely in his day-to-day until the swelling goes down and he gets better. But the Royals really dodged a bullet with that. Any fastball hit by pitch up around the forearm or the hand, it's concerning for any hitter, especially one that means so much to this lineup. But it seems like Bobby's going to be all right, which is a really good sign. I wouldn't expect him to play probably the rest of the week, but we'll see how quickly he bounces back from it. Alec Marsh and his right shoulder soreness. We haven't seen him in a game yet, but he's had a normal progression throwing on a bullpen schedule to this point. He threw 2 innings live BP today. So his timeline's still probably going to be after opening day just because we haven't seen him in a game yet, but seems like things are going well, and we'll see him in Kansas City sooner rather than later. Carlos Estevez has dealt with back tightness, his lower back, but he is scheduled to make his Cactus League debut Friday the 14th, tomorrow, which is a really good sign. That should be able to get him 3 or 4 appearances, hopefully, before opening day. So he should be a regular factor in the bullpen from the start of the season, so there's nothing delayed. Really good sign there. Glad to see him healthy and ready to go to close out games for the Royals. Seems like that could be the role that he's going to have. And then with Kyle Wright, right hamstring strain. Obviously, the shoulder still taking him along kind of slowly with the shoulder, making sure that he's fully ready to go. But he's back on a regular bullpen schedule, threw another one today. So seems like we're heading on the right track. I'd imagine it's similar to Alec Marsh at this point, where they'll probably start in AAA and ramp them up and get them ready to go. And then they're going to be factored in pretty quickly to the opening day, or not to the opening day roster, but to the AAA roster and then to the big league roster not too long after, I'd imagine, with the way the Royals got to shuffle the bullpen in the early going of the season. One guy that's that's factored in a lot, at least early on, and has been kind of the talk of spring training with the Royals. I'm just going to leave the show with Jac Caglianone again. I don't see a reason not to. He's been spectacular. Hit another home run on Sunday, and he had another one, I believe it was on Friday against the Cubs, Thursday or Friday against the Cubs. So he's hit 2 since the last time we spoke. Both monster home runs. The one on Sunday was another 115 off the bat, 450 feet almost. And with just, I mean, it's effortless power, and it was against Aaron Savali of the Milwaukee Brewers, a guy with significant big league time and success at the big league level. And just like in his previous one, it was later in the game. He came in as a late game sub, and worked another solid count. And it was a cutter that didn't cut that the reliever threw him, and he deposited into the right field berm. What is very interesting about some of this stuff with Jac Caglianone is he has 3 home runs this spring, and all 3 have been in 2 strikeouts. And for a guy with his type of power, to be able to shorten up or kind of shorten down, get his swing to a point where he can still fight, make contact with 2 strikes and hammer mistakes and not be afraid to get his ace swing off with 2 strikes. That's an insane amount of confidence. And even on the swings where he doesn't get a home run, he also has 2 doubles in the last couple of games as well. One off of Nestor Cortez, jumped on a first pitch fastball up and in and drove it to the deepest part of the park. Again, another guy with significant big league time and success. And then in the game against Seattle on Wednesday, which I mentioned previously, he comes in, late game sub. He struck out in his first at bat. And I'll get to the strikeout stuff here in a second. He hits a double off of the reliever, 112 off the bat to dead center field, and then comes around to score and ends up being a part of the rally that allowed the Royals to come back and win that game against the Mariners. He's got just there is some stuff that you just can't quantify with the guy. Like for one, he looks like a big leaguer, which you can see, 6'5", 240 with light tower power, 80 grade power. Yeah, that's a big leaguer. No kidding. But the way he carries himself, the way that he professionally goes about his business, and the way that he's talked about, doing as much as he can to learn from guys like Vinny and Salvi and Bobby, and taking in that opportunity and not taking it lightly. The fact that he's still in big league camp is very interesting to me. I don't know if I don't know how much longer it'd be. Could be after the spring breakout game on Friday, they decide to send him down to minor league camp and get ready for the season in Northwest Arkansas. I totally understand it. But it's March 13th. And at this point, a lot of guys that are prospect or prospect adjacent or top guys that get their cup of coffee in big league spring training, and then it's okay, time for you to go back down to minor league camp. He's still not there. And the Royals have started to send a lot of guys, and there were guys that were fringy roster guys like Tyler Gentry. He's already down in minor league camp. Jac Caglianone is still there. I mentioned the strikeouts earlier. And again, as I mentioned, for a guy with his size and his power, he doesn't strike out. He hasn't struck out a ton. And he makes a lot of contact. He has as many home runs as he does strikeouts in spring training so far. Spring training stats almost mean nothing. And that's why I kind of dance around talking about some of the numbers, because it's a small sample. It's 17 plate appearances. It's not huge, but I do think that is noteworthy and not nothing, if that makes sense. The fact that he's able to have that type of power and be able to drive the ball that way, but also be able to not strike out a lot, even with some chase issues and some swing decision things, as I've talked about before with him, the thing that is the reason why he's going to go to the minor leagues and need a fair amount of time there before he's ready for Kansas City. He's the talent shines through, and he's going to continue to get better. A lot of my opinions about him have shifted quite a bit this spring, as much as you can with a 17 plate appearance sample. I've gotten to the point where coming into spring training, I was like, okay, he's going to get a little bit of time. He'll go down to minor league camp. He might get bullied a little bit, and he'll go down to Double A, and we'll see what happens. Because I still have a little bit of skepticism because of some of the swing decision stuff. Might eat him up a little bit, but I think it's evened out a little, my opinion on that, because of his ability to make so much contact. Just want to see it be a little more selective, as I talked about before. I'm at the point now where I'm not going to rule out Cags getting to the big leagues this year. I'm not guaranteeing it. I am not saying it's going to happen, but with a dude that is as talented as he is and is showcasing that talent in big league camp still, and getting starts and getting at bats in every other game or nearly every game, it makes me think they believe that it could be a possibility. Is it 5-10%? Probably. It's not a coin flip, but if he goes to AA, a heavy prospect league, not to the competition, not too far off of what he saw in the parts of the SEC. SEC is probably more like low A, but saw a lot of talent. There's a lot of top prospects. It's a prospect heavy league in the Texas League. He goes there and tears it up. He'll probably be, there's a chance he could be in Omaha by the summer. And then you go there and you get some of the super happy fun ball and some of the wackiness of AAA, and he tears it up there. He could be knocking on the door by the trade deadline. And instead of traded prospect capital to a team to get a middle of the order bat for a playoff stretch, maybe he's that guy. And I'm talking in a lot of conjecture and a lot of guessing, but that's what a lot of this is right now with Jac Caglianone. I don't know what he's going to be, but if what we're seeing in spring is a slight indication of the player that he is, Kansas City has something special, and we could be seeing it sooner rather than later. It's just not something I'm ruling out at this point. With some new information, I have changed my stance a little bit. I'm not going to be hammering the drum that he needs to be in Kansas City this year, but if he plays his way there, I'm not going to be shocked by it at all. There's another guy that's actually played pretty well this spring. It's another guy that was a highly touted prospect or a top prospect for this team in the past that has quietly been very good this spring, and I want to talk about him right after this.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story. Like Bryan Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Bryan Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
As I mentioned at the beginning, please be sure to subscribe, whether that is on the audio or the video side, and hit those notification bells so you know when our episodes go up. I'm really excited to get things going this season, multiple episodes a week, to get you guys as much Royals content as possible from April out, hopefully through October and deep into October as well. Gavin Cross has quietly had a really good spring, and not one that I thought a ton of coming into the year. I knew obviously he had a good year, and he kind of changed the perception from a lot of people about where he was after a pretty bad, and that's putting it lightly, 2023 season. Now, some of that was injury related, and he got really sick, and it sapped his power and kind of changed things. So that, you can chalk it up to that to a certain degree. He had a really solid year in AA, showed some of the flashes of the player that the Royals drafted in 2022 in the first round. He's slashed 429, 529, 714 in big league camp. And again, it's 17 plate appearances, just like Jac Caglianone. So again, we're dealing in a small sample here. He has 2 triples, 2 homers. He's walked and struck out at an equal amount, 3. The caveat here is the opponent quality score, which is a baseball reference statistic and measurement that they use to show who guys are facing during big league, during spring training. So you kind of get an idea. So and this is part of why you put context to some of these, the statistics and the sample, because the opponent quality score is 6.8. A 7 opponent quality score is AA, 8 is AAA, and 10 is MLB. So he's facing basically double A, which is what he faced last season. Jac Caglianone's is pretty similar. So it's not like he's carrying up big league pitching. He hasn't gotten a start. It's been all late game substitution stuff, but he's driving the ball. He's not striking out a ton. He's come up clutch in some spots, as I mentioned, the Jac Caglianone double, and then Gavin Cross comes up right after him and hits a 104-mile-an-hour double down the right field line and ends up getting a triple out of it. So he's showcasing some of the speed that he has as well. He has 3 stolen bases this spring as well. This is where, and I think he's going to go to AAA. Nothing has obviously been decided there yet, but I think he showed enough in AA that he doesn't need to go and repeat it. He should go to AAA and be ready to go. Gavin Cross getting back to the type of player that he was when the Royals drafted him, it changes quite a bit for the outlook of the 2024 season. We all still kind of look at the outfield with some questions and with some skepticism, and I think that's rightful. Hunter Renfroe was not great last year, had some injury concerns. Hopefully if he's able to shore that up this year, maybe it's a more steadying force as a veteran. MJ Melendez, we've seen some of the highs and lows with this swing change. We also have near 1,500 plate appearance sample thereabout of a guy that has a lot of struggles at the big league level with swing, miss, and strikeout. So I guess we'll see. I think that he can be serviceable, but I'm willing to kind of take a step back and see. I don't quite know yet. I think there's some reasons why we're seeing Jonathan India get some more opportunities out left, and we'll see if maybe MJ just becomes a platoon guy. I don't know, but we'll see what that means. And I don't think Gavin Cross is a center fielder. I know he's played some center field, but I don't think he's a Kauffman Stadium center fielder. I think that it's a Kyle Isbell, Joey Wiemer type situation. So I'm talking more specifically about the corners. If Gavin Cross goes to AAA and kills it and builds off of what he did last season, specifically against right-handed pitching, maybe that's a shot in the arm that this team could get and help change the lineup a little bit. The problem is a lot of the concerns with the lineup is when they face left-handed pitching, because a lot of the impact guys like Vinny, MJ, Massey, some of these guys, the Royals platoon quite a bit. And when it's the left-handed pitching lineup, so to speak, it's not as enticing. And that happened a lot last season as well. They got eaten up a little bit by left-handed pitching. That's where I want to see something from Gavin Cross this year. Can he hit any left-handed pitching? Last year, he really didn't. The splits were pretty drastic. Against righties, he slashed 278, 375, 476. That's an 851 OPS. That's really good. He had 13 homers, 47 RBIs, and he walked 43 times against righties. So he sees the ball really well from that. Gavin Cross in 52 games in a straight 100 plate appearance sample against lefties. He slashed 211, 230, 284. That's a 514 OPS with 30 strikeouts to 2 walks and only 2 home runs against lefties. If he's able to even out those splits even just a little bit, we're looking at a much different player. But even if he is just a platoon masher, there's value at the big league level with that. He's a solid glove. He's a good athlete. He can run. And there's probably legitimate 15 to 20 homer power there with some of the exit velocities he's able to put up. So I'm keeping a pretty close eye on Gavin Cross, because I would not be shocked to see him in the big leagues this season if he continues that, specifically hitting right-handed pitching, because there could be some openings available for him. I don't know how long the leash is going to be for some of these guys in a season where you are expected to win, not just we're winning and we're a year early. That's not the case anymore. Expectations have changed. So we'll see what happens there. Moving on to the roster prediction. This is our 4th one that we've done. And frankly, not a lot has changed in my opinion. And I'll go through what I have. And, if you have any comments, be sure to leave them down below. Either, tweet at me at JT Penfield, go to the One Royal Way KCSN Twitter, Or if you're watching on YouTube, drop in the comments if you guys are watching any battles or have any thoughts on who should make the roster, who shouldn't. I have not made any changes to the starting rotation. Reagans, Lugo, Walker, Lorenz, and Bubic. Daniel Lynch is battling for that spot, but I'm going to give the edge to Bubic here. Reliever, Schreiber, Lynch, Stratton, Harvey, Long, Zerpa, Estevez, and Ursig is what I have. Noah Cameron has pitched pretty well, but I don't think they're going to put him in the bullpen. I think they view him more as a starter. Kyle Wright, Alec Marsh, they're on the outside looking in just from a timeline to be ready for the season. And I still have Carlos Hernandez out. And again, that's the spot that everyone's kind of watching. I know we talked about this with Jalen Thompson. We talk about this pretty much every week. What are we going to get from Carlos Hernandez? And he had another tough outing today, gave up a home run, hung a curveball. I don't think it's good enough at this point. And the Royals are at a point where they can't afford to have that spot in the bullpen. And I know that Chris Stratton he's had a solid start to the spring. It's been kind of up and down, but I think given the money they're paying him and they kind of want him to have a mop-up guy in the bullpen, that's what they had for Matt Sauer, Jordan Lyles, and Stratton and Will Smith at the end of last season. I think having that guy that can kind of save the bullpen in spots probably is going to be the role that he has. And I don't think Carlos Hernandez has shown enough to even have that type of role. And it stinks because I think there is a good big league pitcher somewhere in there because we've seen it in spurts. It's not like he's been all bad. Clearly not, because they wouldn't be giving him a chance if they had. But I just think at this point, there's so much unknown when he goes out to the mound. Can you trust him in a big spot? I don't think so. He'll catch on with another team 100%. Someone's going to buy into that fastball and that frame. But I just don't know if it's going to happen for him in Kansas City. It could be just a change of scenery thing for him at this point. Moving on to the starting lineup, nothing has changed. Perez, Pasquantino, Massey at second, Garcia at third, Witt at short, India in left, Isbell center, Renfroe right, MJ DHing is what I have. I'm still kind of curious about Massey playing left. I had somebody reach out to me and regarding my skepticism about Massey's back injury. And from what I was told, and the Royals actually believe that Massey playing left will actually alleviate some of the back issues. It's just kind of a weird thing that running around and swinging and all the torque that comes with that doesn't hurt. But bending over to go and get ground balls constantly makes it flare up sometimes. It's kind of fluky. It's kind of odd. But I think for right now, I think Indy's going to play left, and then Massey will play some second. I haven't seen a lot of Massey in the outfield. There's been a couple of times where I've seen Indy out there more. So that's where I think it's going to go right now, and we'll see what happens moving forward. On the bench, Freddie Fermin is the backup catcher. That is in Sharpie. Okay. I still have Kevin Biggio there, though Harold Castro has actually been pretty solid this spring, but I'm going to give it to Biggio because I think there's a little bit more versatility, and I think it's a more functional bat against right-handed pitching, which is going to be his role versus a Harold Castro, but to his credit, he's been solid. Joey Weimer on the bench. Still have him there because the Dairon Blanco Achilles thing, we'll see. But that'll be a battle as well. Blanco is able to get back into some big league games and show that he is healthy. And then I have Nick Lofton there as well. Outside looking in, I still have Velasquez. He has not had a very good spring. It just doesn't look like it's all there together for him, but he's out of options. But I think Lofton has been a little bit better. And again, there's some more positional versatility. He's making better contact this year, which has been a good sign. And I think in a bench role where he's playing a bunch of different positions, kind of in the opposite, like the right-handed version of what Kevin Biggio is, I think that fits what the Royals need right now. A name to watch, and the only reason I'm really even considering it at this point is because Andy Rogers brought it up, that she had Nick Pratto on her roster projection. I'd kind of written Nick Pratto off about halfway through last year when there were probably opportunities given some of the offensive struggles for certain players on the team. And they needed at bats. It made it a spark. And the only time that Nick Pratto ever got into a big league game was to be a mop-up position player pitching in a blowout. That was it. So at that point, I kind of wiped my hands of it. Like, okay, it's just not going to work here. Well, he's still getting opportunities. Still in big league camp. He's still a name to watch. I still have him on the outside looking in because I'm not sure at this point. There's even if it's not a big sample, I think there's enough of a sample that it hasn't worked for him at the big league level. Guys can always get better. Guys can always change. But there's still some concerns where he's either too aggressive or too selective in the same at bat, and it's kind of odd. The power, he's displayed that. There's some, he can play the outfield, he can play first base at a reasonable level. But then you have a lot of guys that should be playing on the infield that play the outfield. I just think from a roster perspective, I'm just not 100% on that, but we'll see. A lot can change over the next couple of weeks, but that's where I have it now with Fermin, Biggio, Weimer, and Lofton as the bench, with a couple other guys outside looking in, but we'll see if anything changes over the next week or so, because I'll be curious. This feels like the 26-man roster at this point. I'm not sure there's going to be any changes barring either injury or a really bad slump from somebody over the next couple of weeks. But I think pretty confident that what I have is going to be the roster that trots out there on the 27th at Kauffman. Last thing before we get out of here, the spring, as I mentioned earlier, I talked a little bit about it, but the spring breakout game is going to be on Friday night against the Arizona Diamondbacks. For those that don't know, this is MLB's, kind of like the futures game, but it's during spring training and it's all prospects from one team, and it's usually the top guys that are all in it. It's a really cool event. I think if you're really interested in the minor leagues or just young, talented baseball players that are kind of the next generation for Major League Baseball, this is the place to watch it. I thought it was awesome last year. I want to see it again this year. And the Royals put, I think, all 26 of their guys, nearly all of their top 30 guys are on this roster. So it's really cool. I think it is a really good opportunity for the Royals to showcase some of these guys. And a lot of these guys, it's a time to really see them for the first time in some of these games. So, unless you have the MLB package, you can watch some of the minor league games, but not all are televised, and usually the television product isn't awesome. So this is a really cool chance to see all of these dudes together. For the roster, I'll go to the pitchers first. Felix Arande, Luinder Avila, Drew Beam, Noah Cameron, Eric Sarantola, Ben Kudrna, Frank Mazzucato, David Shields, Blake Walters, Cheryl Wyatt, and Steven Zobak. The catchers, Carter Jensen, Ramon Ramirez, and Hyung Chan Un. Blake Mitchell's listed on there, but he has the hamate injury, so he's not going to play. But I think they put him on the list still, as he would have been. And I'm kind of bummed because I really wanted to watch Blake Mitchell play. On the infield, Caglianone, Austin Charles, Yandel Ricardo, was making his stateside debut. I think he was in the complex league, but he hasn't played an affiliated ball yet. So this is really our first look at him. Brett Squires, Yannick Ugarte, who's another international guy, Javier Vaz, and then Daniel Vasquez, who's got some big league camp time as well. And then in the outfield, Gavin Cross, Tyler Gentry, Osbel Gonzalez, Spencer Nivens, and Carson Rockefeller. Few names that I'm really excited to see out of this list. The pitchers for me, Drew Beam and David Shields, I'm really intrigued by. Drew Beam, to me, is a guy that's going to move really quickly. It's a very, very high floor type pitcher. Good command, good velocity, good stuff. I think he could be really good really quickly. And David Shields fascinates me because I think it's a tough bet on a prep lefty, as we've seen with Frank Mazzucato. But I think this dude can really pitch. And I'm excited to see where he ends up going in affiliated ball and if he's ready to go. But those are two names to really watch. I remain fascinated by Austin Charles, so I'm excited to see him in this spot and see how he's continued to progress. He was always a raw prospect when they drafted him. He was always going to be kind of a slow build. Seen some stuff from him, after 2 go rounds in Colombia. I'm excited to see what he does in Quad Cities. Obviously Caglianone, but that goes without saying. Osbel Gonzalez is a guy that I find really intriguing. It's hit over power, but a lot of speed and a really good center fielder. I think if you had to bet on a prospect being the everyday center, like an everyday center field type, moving forward, from a prospect perspective, I think Osbel Gonzalez might be that guy. Really could be a really fun name to watch this year. I like Spencer Nivens as well. Hit a bunch of homers at the end of the year. Kind of got on a heater in Quad Cities. Could be a name to watch in Northwest Arkansas. Part of a really, really fun lineup there. So there are going to be a lot of names to watch, and I'm going to be tuned in for this. I'll probably be tweeting about it throughout the game. So be sure to tune in. It's going to be on the MLB.TV and the MLB.com. I think all the spring training games are free to watch, so I don't even think you need a subscription for it. So you should be able to find this on the website, even if you don't have an MLB.TV subscription. I keep wanting to say prescription. It's getting late. I haven't had the caffeine is wearing off from my day, so probably a good time to end this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And speaking of these prospects, next week I have someone coming on that is very knowledgeable about the minor leagues and prospects. So we will be talking about probably this game and do some rankings and some players to watch throughout the season. So I promised a minor league heavy episode. That's what next week is going to be. So be sure to tune in then, and I'll talk to you all then. Take care.